one sacred cow and a couple of large elephants still in the room. First, deal with the sacred cow, which I don't propose to discuss too much tonight, but I agree with George about the need to keep our electricity supply from collapsing if we switch off the coal-fired power, because that would destroy public transport and communications and most people's livelihoods. But I also support the Lovelock position in that really they'll have to overcome their distaste for nuclear energy, because it really isn't that bad. And compared with the idiotic plan of carbon capture and storage, which is rubbish, but nuclear energy had to deal with 1 million times as much, or several million times as much waste in a volatile form, and you have to keep it there forever in carbon capture and storage, whereas with nuclear energy, you've only got a small amount of solid stuff that decays quite rapidly. So all this anti-nuclear stuff is crap. The other big, let's get on to the big elephant now. The big elephant, which we haven't thought is
look, even if you believe nuclear power is the solution, is that it will take decades to replace the nuclear power stations that we have. And even if you replace all those nuclear power stations, it will cut CO2 emissions by about 4%. It's not the answer. Most of our energy needs is the heat, followed by transport and then electricity. And nuclear power provides a small proportion of the electricity. And actually, if you look at the nuclear power stations today, I think I read in The Guardian recently, most of them are not working anymore, are they?
Look at the state of Britain's housing stock. Much of it beyond all economic repair. Much of it is extremely hard to retrofit, or not to mention almost impossible, with the kind of energy saving that we need. There's a lot of housing stock, you put in sufficient insulation to bring it up to spec, and you have a massive condensation problem. We've got enormous technical problems here, which would be very, very hard to deal with. So even if we were to persuade people, oh, we can get by with just 10% of the energy that we're using today, even if you're able to do that politically, you then have to show how it can be done. And actually, in many areas, it cannot be done. You can't do it purely through energy efficiency. And you advocated that we look at what the Zero Carbon Britain report has to say about this. That is the report published by the Centre for Alternative Technology that I was talking about. And which says we need to start having a massive expansion of the electricity supply. They're talking about 3 times, roughly, current electricity supply in order then to start taking over other forms of energy use and switching to renewable electricity. And they have some very elegant ideas as to how this can be done. So
I want to say that one thing is that it's going to be more crucial when, once we've got a climate bill, that's kind of the easy part. The harder part is actually getting the targets, and we need a big movement to be angry when they don't reach the targets. That's going to be really important. This 78, it is an international action. It is about building a movement around the world as well, because ultimately, you know, it's not just us. We have to persuade the Americans, the Indians, the Chinese, and this is, you know, that's why we've worked quite hard to bring people around the world together on this day to build the global movement.
I'm just about to move back to Johannesburg in South Africa. Firstly, well, the main reason being that I find it an unsustainable way of life, as thousands of South Africans, New Zealanders, Australians in London fly backwards and forwards maybe 2-3 times a year. So I've decided to go back, and I'm really concerned, obviously, because I want to carry on doing the stuff related to climate change that I've been doing here, how to communicate that in a country where you could wait 3 days for a bus, or, you know...
South Africa is a very interesting case. It's a very poor country and a very rich country, of course, all mixed in together. And one of the things we see very clearly is that high carbon emissions and inequality are closely linked. And South Africa has the 21st highest carbon emissions in the world, which, considering how per capita, considering how poor most of the people in that country are, is remarkable. It's partly because of Sasol, this appalling coal-to-liquids plant where they're making this sort of fake petroleum out of coal, which incidentally will be coming to a city near you probably before very long. And a lot of people talk about peak oil being a solution to climate change. Far from it. You know, governments are going to say, well, if peak oil's coming, we need to start turning coal into transport fuel. We need to start developing more biofuels. We need to start exploiting more tar sands and more oil shale and all the rest of it. We have to curtail climate change before peak oil hits, otherwise we are really stuffed. Peak oil massively affects. Now, why don't people with money care? It is a good question, actually. It's a profound question, and it cuts to the heart of much of what we're talking about. How many people here have read Cormac McCarthy's novel, The Road? Read it. It is the most important environmental book ever published. What he does is a thought experiment. He says, let's imagine there's no biosphere. Let's imagine the biosphere is destroyed, in this case by a nuclear winter. And there are just a few humans wandering about trying to survive. And you suddenly realise everything we value, everything we see, everything we deceive ourselves into being important is merely a crust on the skin of the biosphere. And without the biosphere, it's all gone, including the money. And one of the things which keeps coming up in the book is that gold is just left lying around because it's of no value anymore. There's nothing you can do with it. There's nothing to buy because there is nothing to buy. And so you can't buy anything with it. You use gold. And the great deception, which is right at the heart of our economy, is that money can buy our way out of trouble.
I'm in complete agreement that both direct action and people getting out on the streets totally need each other for support, and it's really important that as movements, with our different strategies and the different tactics, especially tactics that we all work together and support each other. Genetic engineering was booted out of this country for many years because there was a public uprising of public support that went hand in hand with direct action. So when people got put to court, many of their cases were dropped or given like the minimum charges possible. So it's really important that we work together and get out there. And not everybody can go and blockade a coal plant. There are many people that have other considerations and can't get out there. But people can be supported by writing letters to your newspapers when things happen, supporting that, or turning up at the cop shop with chocolate is always appreciated. So,
coming back to the comment from the speaker from NEF about consumption, is that maybe also we should shut down the advertising industry because they've got a way of marketing their form of democracy, challenge them to stop promoting gas-guzzling cars, cheap flights, more consumption, and so on and so forth. And I think that there was just one other thing that, also in terms of what we can do politically, is that The Guardian published some leaked documents about a week or 10 days ago, showing that the UK government was trying to derail the 20% renewable energy target in the EU, which is actually quite a progressive piece of legislation, quite challenging targets. What was really shocking about that, there were two things. One was Germany was going to go for it, and it created a huge industry, 250,000 jobs, 3 million people now have micro-renewable energy on their houses. It's really changed the kind of perception and engagement of people in the whole climate change debate in Germany. Whereas here, what did this country do? According to those documents, they were going to form an alliance with the two brothers that were in power in Poland. These two brothers who were homophobic, anti-Semitic climate skeptics. Where was the morality of this government that says climate change is so important, produces all these reports about what we need to do about climate change, and then sides with two people who are probably some of the most reactionary forces within the EU? And I think that's where we've really got to challenge this government, and we've really got to challenge these companies that speak with forked tongues. Okay, thank you.
Leave your telephone number at the end of this. Give us the money in standing orders. We need the money desperately in the campaign. But above all, come and find us and find what you can do to spread the word and get more people moving.